Let's do it.
Okay, my picture's not there. How do I get it in?
Should be somewhere on your screen. There should be a picture of a video next to the microphone.
Camera that's got
Lower,
action.
probably the lower right, left-hand corner. If you mouse over there.
Okay,
Start video.
huh, okay.
And
There you are.
Yeah, okay,
a shadow of you.
You're fuzzy, but you're there.
good enough.
Okay. Marcia, I guess when you're ready, we can start.
I'm going to admit Deb Adelman.
Oh, good, perfect. Oh, and Dorcas has someone behind her. Looking good.
That's all.
Okay. So not a very lengthy update this time around.
Is everybody here? Do you have everybody here,
I think we do.
including public?
Barbara Pike is joining us now.
Okay, perfect. Then let me call the meeting to order.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'll try and make it quick.
Wants to get this over with. I don't think.
Yeah, but Marcia's got Marcia.
Didn't we just meet like minutes ago?
We did. We met a couple of days ago. So I'm Nat Welch, and co-chair of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. This meeting is being held under the Act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. And it allows us to continue to provide live, adequate alternative means of public access to the deliberations of the public body, including holding meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible. And it also allows us to hold meetings via video. I'm going to skip the rest of reading of the act. I believe that's okay.
Yeah,
Marcia?
that's fine.
Okay, good. Okay. So those of you on Zoom, and Barbara, you're one of the guests and you know how to use Zoom. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. And in the event that we have technical difficulties or Zoom becomes unavailable and we cannot recover within a couple of minutes, this meeting will be ended and all matters in the agenda will be pushed to our November meeting. The minutes for tonight's meeting will be taken by committee member Adrienne Boardman. Adrienne, again, thank you for awesome minutes. At this time, I'll ask the committee members to indicate that they are present. Richard Follander.
Present.
John Soden. John.
Sorry, it said I was unmuted. No, it's.
You're here. You're here. Thank you, John. Deb Edelman.
Here.
Adrienne Boardman.
Present.
Dorcas Miller.
Present.
And myself, Nat Welch. With 6 members, we have a quorum. Excellent. Our next agenda item is to approve the minutes from the September 21st meeting. Those minutes were sent out to the members yesterday or this morning. Are there any edits to the minutes that committee members want to suggest? And I think, Deb, we spelled your name correctly this time. Any edits? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee of September 21st?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
We'll now do a roll call vote on the approval. Get my act together here. Richard Follander.
Approve.
John Soden.
He's
John. He disappeared. I will continue the vote. Adrienne Boardman.
Approve.
Dorcas Miller.
Yes, approved.
And myself, Nat Welch. 5 of the 6 members have approved. And so the
And
minutes
me,
are.
and me as well.
I'm sorry, Deb. I'm sorry. How did I miss you? Deb, approve? Okay. And John, do you approve of the minutes from the 21st?
I do.
Okay. The motion passes unanimously. The minutes are approved. Our next agenda item is Marcia Rasmussen, Director of Planning and Land Management, to provide a monthly update. Marcia, the floor is yours.
Well, it's not quite an update, a monthly update. It's a 2-week update.
True.
And so we did get the notice out that the concrete decking was going to be poured over the weekend of October 2nd, and it did in fact happen. There was a site visit update construction meeting today, but they didn't provide adequate notice, and I had another meeting scheduled, so I didn't attend, but if there are questions, I can follow up with the project manager, the resident engineer tomorrow, and I'm going to try to schedule a site visit for town staff next week sometime or the following week. So now they're waiting for the concrete to cure, checking everything, making sure it's the right weight and the right density and so forth. And then they'll move forward with additional construction. I just wanted to let Richard know, since he's already planning for the grand opening next July of 2022 or August of 2022, that West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee and the West Concord Advisory Committee are interested in participating in any kind of planning for that. So you have
Great.
some additional resources. Phase 2C, we were able to have the contractor did provide an estimate for contractor working with Public Works in the improvements at Sudbury Road intersection and 7 Star Lane, provided an addenda or I want to say an appraisal. It's not an appraisal, it's an estimate for the construction of a curb ramp on the Neshoba Brook Bridge near the parking lot that's associated with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And I approved that. So it is expected to be installed this fall, early winter, sometime before they close construction for this season. So they're moving forward with that. On the last half mile of phase 2C, the Community Preservation Committee did conduct its site visit on Saturday, September 23rd. Beautiful day. We had a really great turnout. And so there were committee members and residents who walked that portion from Powder Mill Road to White Pond. So we discussed the location and the type of fencing, and I have a presentation to make for November 9th scheduled for the Community Preservation Committee. So that's in the evening, and we'll be doing several, including this one. So I wanted to note that Richard Follinger did prepare his letter of support from this committee for the CPC, and that's been submitted. So thank you for doing that. Phase 2D, I didn't get an update. I just provided you the specific language that was provided. I gave you a verbal rendering of Beth Sudemeyer's update for what's going on in Sudbury. And then, so this is just verbatim from her email. Since it hasn't been a month, I didn't think an additional update would be warranted. And then finally, the materials for the shelters and bike racks to be installed in West Concord have been delivered, and I will be meeting with Aaron McCloskey, our Concord Public Works Highway and Ground Superintendent, to discuss what needs to be done and when that might be scheduled, but it all needs to happen and take place prior to December 31st, 2021, per the revised contract with Mass DOT. The town will be reimbursed. Well, the state will pay for the equipment. The town is responsible for the freight and the installation. So it costs about $2,500 to have it shipped. And I'll be working with Aaron to get an estimate for the installation, but we did set aside funds to do that through another. I think we have the money available from this year's CPC funds. So that's my report.
Thank you, Marcia. Any questions from committee members?
Yeah, I have one question, Marcia. I noticed when I was on the trail the other day that near the bridge over the Assabet, not the big bridge, the smaller one on toward Powder Mill Road side. If
Okay.
I'm right, doesn't matter exactly where it is, but there's already some noticeable little humps from trees roots appearing. they're small, but they're there. And it made me think, is in terms of maintenance, is there an actual line item budget for the maintenance of the trail in the Public Works Department's budget? Or is it simply, oh, we'll grab some money and fix it when we can?
My understanding was that earlier, the prior town manager, Chris Whalen, did include a line item budget for maintenance of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. I would expect that Concord Public Works Director, Alan Cathcart, will request maintenance funds for continuing maintenance of the trail. I mean, the town voted to try to retain as many trees as possible. So the clearing that normally would or might have taken place otherwise, we did not clear to the extent of the full right of way, because we wanted to protect and preserve that shade and that character.
Mhm.
So it is probably going to increase the maintenance down the road.
So can we find out what that amount would be in the upcoming fiscal year's budget?
I can check with Aaron and ask him that
Okay.
next week. Yes.
Thank you.
Just following up on Rich's question, I assume this is a well-known engineering issue in many rail trails. I certainly noticed it on the northern part of the Bruce Freeman in past years, and I know they've kind of repaved parts, but is it essentially you cut the route, or is that too much detail to worry about? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Okay,
I can share a little what I've seen. Let me just make sure I'm not on mute here.
you're good.
So on the rail trails I've been on, and I just saw this recently, it was actually really kind of fun. There's a person appointed who has basically a can of paint, a spray paint, and they sit there and they're walking along designated areas, and they see the roots come up and they spray in a very, prominent color. And I've not seen this, then I guess it's at night, or at least I haven't been on my bike. They come and they literally cut it and repair it. So I believe there's a two-step process. How often they do it, when they do it. I mean, these are things I've really wanted to know. All I can say is when I was on the Cape Cod Rail Trail a couple weeks ago, and I ran into the person doing it, I just stopped my bike and I shook his hand. I said, "Thank you for all you do." So,
Okay,
but I'm sure it's something that can easily be investigated.
okay. So we'll get some idea of the budget item next time around.
Nad? My hand
Yes,
is- in case you-
yes, please, go ahead. Barbara,
Okay,
yes.
Barbara Pike, 118 Border Road. Marcia, I know the shelters have been in the works for a while, and I can't remember where that money is coming from.
It's coming from a community connections grant that the state put forward back in 2020. We were notified at the end of 2020 that we would be awarded the money for the shelters and for the bike racks.
Okay,
And
and how many parking spaces, covered spaces are there? Or maybe it doesn't
I
matter.
don't remember off the
It's
top
in-
of my head.
Yeah, I think you had it in a former
Yeah.
memo.
And they're going to be sort of across the drive to the parking area for the train station in that new strip of, well, newish strip of parking spaces. Is that where they're going?
They'll be going in the area that was where the new spaces were constructed as part of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Near the trail. We're near the trail path, right? Yeah.
Yes.
On would be what is it, the west side of the, yeah, that's on the train station. Never mind. I'm just gonna get myself
That's
confused.
confusing right there.
I'm very confused. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I will stop confused. Any other member questions for the report?
Marcia, is there any benefit or help that the committee can provide when you're doing your presentation for CPC? Like, is that something that we should make sure there's representation from someone on our committee?
If you're available to attend that meeting, yes, I'm sure it would be great. to have.
November 9th, at what time?
November 9th. It starts at 7 PM. I'm not sure which item, when it will be scheduled. I can send you a copy of the agenda when it comes out.
Okay. I will
So
not
that's
be,
just like the regular CPC meeting scheduled for that night. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
They will have three meetings where they will hear presentations from the various applicants. And I have 3 that night, so this is one of 3.
okay. Adrian, thank you for asking the question. That's a good one. Anybody interested in attending, let Marcia know, just so she knows that we're there supporting her. And then I had one question on point number 5, phase 2D. What's the, I mean, you reported the relayed verbally at the 21 meeting, but can you just remind me what the 2 paragraphs mean from Beth Sudemeyer? Have we accomplished something good there?
Well, recall that there was a meeting in August where the 2 consultants for Concord and for Sudbury met with the state and met with representatives from Concord. Delia Kay went for me since I was not available. And they heard the comments that had been raised by the state. So they were following up on that meeting and preparing a memo to why they were requesting these various amenities along the trail. And Fuston O'Neill is proceeding with the 100% design plans, and she believes that they're on track to advertise for 2022. The fact that DEP issued the Project 91 determination is a good thing, because it means that you don't have to go through quite as many hoops with regard to the Army Corps of Engineers and when you're dealing with waterways. So that was the good news, because that same document they said, yes, you are subject to, but you are also exempt. And so that's
So we're good. Okay, that's great. Thank you for explaining that. Okay. Any other questions? Well, otherwise we'll move on. So the first item on the agenda is Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee Liaison Assignments. And Marcia, do you have that?
I'm sorry, I don't have it ready, but I can just.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll kind of explain. So we have chosen over the years, we've inherited kind of a set of liaison responsibilities to different committees. And a liaison from Bruce Freeman to another committee is there so that we can, as a whole, stay current with the work of other committees that may impact our own work. The liaison is not required to attend all meetings of the committee assigned to them, but they should monitor their assigned committee's activities by reviewing that committee's agenda and their minutes each month to understand if there are any issues or activities that relate to the work of our committee. And each month, if there's any important news, the liaison should report out to the committee issues, activities of interest, and where appropriate, suggest follow-up actions. And we had last year kind of created a set of assignments, and with Deb joining us, and I think Adrian, we had actually assigned something to you. We have a list of those liaison assignments, and Marcia is bringing them up. I think I sent a copy of this memo to everyone. So what I'd like to do is just have committee members look at them and just make sure that we're okay where we are. I had the meeting information on the right-hand column may or may not be correct, but what we have right now is here. And Deb, I think you just took over the slot that was held by the prior committee member. So first, I just want to see if everyone is comfortable with the committee they have, or if they, want to swap with somebody else, and if you have any questions about what the liaison role is.
Let me just see if I have any questions based on the material. I guess, how were these committees
How were they
assigned.
chosen?
Yeah, I mean, I see, a little bit, for example, the trail abuts natural resources and things
Yep.
like that.
Yep. We have a relationship with the Trails Committee as it is. We go by White's Pond. We go through West Concord. There was some thought about, do we want someone, to liaise to the school committee on the safe routes to school that use the Bruce Freeman or rail trail, or, we don't actually have anyone going to the natural resources meeting, but it's an idea that we might want to have someone there. The ones in the box are the ones that I'll say were inherited as I came on to the committee and we became, as Richard and I became co-chairs. So there's no rhyme or reason. I think we did, Dorcas, I think we talked a little bit, John, we talked a little bit about, were these okay? But I think as our work goes forward, I just want to make sure that we're all focused on what we have to, just keep track of the agendas of those committees. And if you think there's something that we need to talk about, bring it up here.
So I have two questions. The first is more of a technical one, and I can take it offline. Maybe Marcia, you can help me. But in the one committee I was assigned, I can't find any minutes. I see their agendas, and you are correct. I think they're trying to get back on the schedule for the first of the month, but I cannot find any minutes. I do see agendas. So that's maybe a technical issue. All that's been uploaded are agendas. So again, I'm happy to take that offline. My second question is something that.
Do you want Marcia to answer it first?
Yes, if it's okay now.
I think just contact me offline.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Marcia.
My second question is regarding actually a question I got from one of the members of the bike clubs that I am a member of. And I may have forwarded to you, Nat, and Richard, but basically the person didn't really know who to ask. So they knew that I was a member of this committee, and they said, there's a lot of potholes creeping up. It's that time of year, and they were a little agitated. They said, when are you going to do something about it? And I gently said, we're just the rail trail. But that begs the question, is there a committee, and maybe this is an obvious question, whose job that is? And are we tangentially related? Because we have those similar issues. We just talked about it, how we have the roots creeping up, and maybe that's the same committee. So that's really my question. Is there another committee that's more infrastructure and keeping things up to date?
Marcia, do you want to take that one?
Well, yes, in terms of potholes, it's Public Works, and there is a Public Works Commission. So either refer that person to the commission or to the town staff, and highway and ground superintendent would take that information. And I see that Matt Johnson has his hand raised.
Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as I look at these liaison assignments, I would assume that the Transportation Advisory Committee might be one of the more relevant, maybe more than the Housing and Development for this. Just in that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, while it's not strictly a transportation asset, it does have that aspect, and especially with complete streets being our policy, I think it'd be worth including.
Has that committee been reconstituted yet?
It's on its way, but I'm just saying, that it would be the right, I think, a right touch point, more so than Housing and Development, I think.
And I'm not sure where Housing and Development came from in terms of that this is an inherited list. Marcia, do you have any history on that?
Yes, it had to do with the fact that the CHGC owns land over which they had to go over the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail in order to develop the assisted living project that has not yet been constructed, but there is a hefty open space component that is currently being developed by the Junction Village Open Space Task Force. And that might be a committee that you'd want to check out. They just
I would say
prior to your meeting
maybe not
here.
so much the CHDC, but the Open Space Task Force might be relevant, because now that the trail's been developed, that part at least is done.
Yep. Yeah. So the West Concord Open Space Task Force is different from the West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee and the West Concord Advisory Committee.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's, what is it called?
There's
it-
Junction Village Open Space Task Force
Right.
is,
It's basically that plot of land and trying to figure out what to do the open space there that it is adjacent to the trail.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
And
Richard,
then
you were gonna say
Transportation Advisory Committee, because, you know, and what happened was it used to be a committee that had a lot of town staff on it, but that created open meeting law concerns. So now it's being reconstituted with majority citizen participation. And so they're being recruited, but once they get recruited, they'll start working on transportation issues around town. So in fact, the potholes, I mean, while CPW eventually owns the potholes, that Transportation Advisory might also weigh in on those kind of things.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to see where that committee is, but that's helpful. Thank you.
And Matt, is it the intent of the select board when they're reconstituting the Transportation Advisory Committee to appoint someone from here? So we wouldn't be liaison, but we would be actually a member of that.
Oh, a member, gosh.
Yeah.
I can't recall. I can't recall what the charge says, but yeah, you may even be more than just a liaison. You're right.
Okay, so how would we find, would we need
I
to?
can go check out the charge. I can come back in 5 minutes with the answer for you.
Okay, all right, that's great. Thank you. It sounds like we should, and I don't think we need to do a formal vote on this, right? We're just basically working on the admin of the committee. So remove the Concord Housing and Development and bring in the Junction Village Open Space Task Force. That's one suggestion. Then the Transportation Advisory Committee, which either if we don't have an appointed seat, then we would have to add that to the list. The next one down is the Disabilities Committee, which it feels like we should, I mean, Richard, you've been attending that. That feels like a worthwhile liaison for us, correct?
I think so, yes, because they've already expressed concerns, specifically the issue of the curb cut. I don't think that wouldn't have come to our attention without their input.
Okay, great. And Trails Committee, thoughts on that? I mean, it feels like we are related in a way.
We seem like we related, however, so far, the meetings I've listened to, we are never mentioned.
Okay. Okay. And any thoughts from other members on keeping it or dropping it as a liaison? I mean, I'd like to make it
I think we should keep it.
Okay.
Because it is there are issues related to bikes on trails that could impact bikes on the rail trail, potentially e-bikes specifically.
Okay. And Dorcas, are you, I think we should probably make this open season in some sense. Would you be interested in keeping the Trails Committee, or would you be interested in taking on something else?
Either one, I'm fine with
Okay.
either.
Okay. All right. The White Pond Advisory Committee, John, you're currently on that. It feels like something we should keep because we were on right by White's Pond. Any comments or thoughts?
I was quite active with them. In fact, made presentation to them when we were going through the last half mile and all the fencing issues. And I don't know if they've had a change in chairman or what. Carmen, who was the chairman, I was on the regular email list. I kept up with them, but I have not had an email from them maybe in a month or two. So, but the fencing issue is very much alive with them, and they did appreciate the fact of my participation in their meetings.
Good. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
There is a new chair. I believe Josh Galper is now the chair of the White Pond Advisory Committee.
Okay.
So,
I think there
Are you on their mailing list vis-a-vis the town website? Or was it a separate list that they were maintaining, if you know what I mean?
I'm sure it was their own internal list.
Yeah.
And as I say, Carmen was the chairman, a long time chairman, I think. And she used to liaise with our committee and used to
Yeah.
attend our meetings regularly. So she always included me in all the internal mailings.
So it might be worthwhile to go on the town site and sign up through, what do we call that, Marcia? The notifications?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
I actually think there's two chair right now, two chairmen on
okay.
that.
On the White Pond Advisory Committee. Okay.
Good.
All right, so we can keep that. And then, Deb, this fell into your lap because you replaced somebody, but the West Concord Advisory Committee,
Mhm.
because we run through there. I mean, and maybe Matt, you have some thoughts about which of the West Concord committees are important.
So, I mean, the West Concord Advisory Committee is probably the one that's the most relevant. You know, of course, there are going to be individual projects with the cultural district that might affect the rail trail, but you'll learn about them through the West Concord Advisory Committee anyway.
Yeah.
So I think, because those guys work closely together. So I'd recommend that. The other, while I've got the floor here, I wanted to mention that the revised charge of the Transportation Advisory Committee just identifies 7 citizens. So in fact, you would not be a member because, according to the membership rules that we have, you wouldn't serve on 2 committees. So it would just be a liaison relationship.
Is it worth asking the board to, assign us a seat? Because because we have a deep interest, obviously, in transportation, because we cut across a good part of town. So I don't know what the politics are, but.
Yeah, I'd say at this stage, it's probably better to just leave it. I mean, we just completed a whole bunch of different charges for different committees, and we have made little tweaks here and there. But yeah, I think that one would say, well, why are we, calling out Bruce Freeman but not calling out other bodies?
Right.
That's the main concern.
I am fully aware of the challenges, so that's good. All right, so thank you, Matt. The other committee, so the Historical Commission, I'm assigned to.
That was probably more important when the trail was being built, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably true too. So, so the question is, do we need to, we also attend the chair's breakfast, which is the weekly meeting or the monthly meeting of all the chairs of all the committees. So that's something that I liaise to as well. Any committees we want to add a liaison to? We did talk about replacing Concord Housing with the Junction Village Open Space Task Force. So right now, Adrian, that's kind of fallen. That replacement is in your slot if you're okay with that.
Yeah,
Are there
I'm
any other?
comfortable with that.
Okay. Any other committees we should think about liaising with?
Well, you don't have the Transportation Advisory Committee listed here.
Yes.
And so, and as Matt pointed out, the Historical Commission was instrumental in helping develop the interpretive panels that were installed. Since everything's been done there, I'm not sure that it's still relevant or as relevant or less or more relevant than the Transportation Advisory Committee. So that might be a substitution.
I'll substitute that in for me. So I'll update this list and send it out to all the committee members if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, and I just have a question in terms of the report out. Can you, and again, I know we all have the document. Should we assume that when we have attended the most recent meeting, if there's something of note, we communicate back to you? You add it to the agenda? Is that sort of how the process works? Or?
Every agenda always has a liaison report, and so it's just an open floor. So if you have something to report, you can do that. And if for some reason whoever put the agenda together forgets, then the member should feel free to say, got something to say about this. So thank you all for taking on the task of liaising. I appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Envision Concord. And we had sent out the material that Marcia had shared with us. So on November 15th, as I understand it, there's going to be a meeting of most of the town committees and includes us to discuss our role in the Envision Concord planning process. And as I understand it, the goal of the meeting is to work with the town to define and implement action steps for us that are within our charge. And Marcia was kind enough in her email to note that our specific charge that we're mentioned in, and I don't know if all of you had a chance to take a look through it. I actually spent some of the afternoon going through this list of the implementation action chart. Ours is open space and natural resources category. Goal number 1, action 5, which states collaborate with the budding towns and the region to work together on the health and continuity of open space networks and ecosystems across town borders. So that applies to us because we are a network in some sense across both Acton and Sudbury borders. So I think, as I understand it, we need to draft an update to the town for this November 15th meeting about this specific charge. And Marcia or Matt, if you have any comments about that, let me know.
Yeah, I would just say that you've got it, and that we're going to be looking across lots of committees, lots of tasks. So, you know, brevity is appreciated. You don't have to write some big thesis. The big point of this, of course, is that the town spent a lot of resources and time, and I think created an excellent plan back in 2018. And what we're trying to do is call committee's attention to that plan because, you know, institutional memory is sometimes limited. And then to, you know, get a checkpoint on where are we, because we're, you know, a few years in and we still have plenty of time to go, but get people focused on completing any remaining tasks that, you know, might not have been getting as much attention because it's just day-to-day activities kind of come to the fore. The last thing is to anticipate whether there's anything new we just missed in the plan and that should be getting attention that you've uncovered since then. And so that's where this really is a not a midpoint check-in, but sort of early to mid.
Okay. And so we need to draft an update to the town on our progress to this one item. And Marcia also noted in her email that there's there was mention of all town committees that we might fall under, that we may want to make comments on or address. So one of them, for example, is cultural and historic. Goal number 2, action 6, which is offer and participate in regional collaborative efforts to promote cultural programs and events. And so, you know, for example, I think the Open Doors or Open Outdoors is an example of an event that we put together. So I think we should probably update the town briefly that, you know, these are some of the things we will continue to work on. One goal for all committees was in land use, goal 3, action 5. I don't think it's applicable to us because it's about housing funding. And then mobility and transportation, goal 2, action 1, also not applicable, I believe, because it's about shared or on-demand transportation availability for folks in town. The mobility and transportation goal number 3, action 2, is to prioritize a set of financially sustainable infrastructure projects such as dedicated paths, lanes, road marking, bicycle racks, etc., that will improve connections between key bicycling and walking paths and sidewalks. I'm not sure if there is anything there for us, but it's probably worth thinking about a little bit. Then the next one is mobility and transportation goal 3, action number 4. Study possible paths and trails that create better links to nature preserves, recreational lands, and other destinations. And I think since we're fixed where we are and where we're going, I'm not sure there's really much we have to say for this one. Goal 3, action item 6 in mobility and transportation is improving connectivity through wayfinding and signage. I think, for example, the most recent sign that Marcia worked on for the prison for, what was it? What was that area called? White. Damn, I forgot
The white row.
White, right. That's a good example of something that we've done. And again, I think we can be very short about that. And then finally, mobility and transportation, goal 5, action 3, providing electric vehicle charging stations, bike racks, and public transportation stops at public parking facilities and in publicly funded development, encouraging privately owned parking areas to do the same. So I think, you know, the work that we talked about earlier this evening on the shelters is an example of that. So I think these are things we could probably write up pretty quickly. I'm willing to write them up and you know, have something that can be given to the committee in our next meeting and then approved and sent on for the meeting. As some of you know, I will not be around either for the next meeting or the 15th because I'll be back by the 15th. I'll be in Tahiti. So I will do some work beforehand and work with my co-chair to get something together for the committee to look at. Any questions or comments or thoughts from people with regard to that? Matt, you had your hand up again?
Yeah, I just thought that there was that pilot for the bike rental that took place.
Oh,
And it just might, you know, want to note that. I mean, relative to that last goal.
Okay.
And we're going to be trying it again. We have some additional funding, so we're expecting bike shares hopefully by the end of the month, if not early November, for
Okay.
West Concord and for the visitor center.
Of course, I think what people get excited about, but also what's terrifying are e-bike shares.
Yes.
So sorry, Marcia, we're gonna do, you're getting the equivalent of, bike shares. I'm sorry, I'm just overwhelmed. It's happening?
Exciting?
Yes. They're not e-bikes, but they are just.
No.
But
That's
they'll
great.
be,
And how many of those?
5 for West Concord and 5 for the visitor center.
Okay,
You can only ride one at a time, Deborah.
I know, but I
Okay.
have 4 children, so that means 5 will be used at one time, but I'll try
Italy
not
family
to.
will have a monopoly on bike share.
Just have a
Okay.
sign, only 2 per family at given time.
Adrian,
I
you have 2, right? Aren't there 4 in your family?
We're a family of 5.
Oh, so you might be competing with the Edelmans for bike. Okay. Well, Marcia, we may have to do some long-term planning here to accommodate it.
Well, one will go to the visitor center and one will go to West Concord, and everybody's fine.
And
Right.
it's fine, Adrian, we'll make a schedule offline. It's fine.
Good,
I'd
good.
like to have.
Dorcas?
I know it's later in the agenda too about the connection. I think that even though that's going to be later in the agenda, I really wonder if that should not also be in this.
You broke up, Dorcas. Can you repeat that?
I feel pretty strongly about the connection to the middle school.
Okay. Yes.
I think it should be in this, even though I know we're going to discuss it later. I think it should be in this.
Okay. And I think the question I have is, does it fit under one of the categories that are part of our charge? And I guess, Marcia, if it's not specifically part of our charge, can we still say this is something else we would like very much to have, you know, included in the plan?
I think we're talking about connections to the rail trail, direct connections.
Okay.
And I think the whole safe bikes to, the safe paths to school is part of that. So yes, I think it's appropriate.
Okay, good. Dorcas, that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing it up. We'll definitely have some words on that. Okay. So
I just had a
yes.
couple follow-up comments after your presentation, which I thought, by the way, was excellent and very comprehensive. I went through the materials, and not being familiar with how this has been prepared, the report in the past, I took a step back and I looked for themes, and so sort of concatenating all of the goals and the big ideas. I saw path utility for bikers, things like making sure that you have adequate charging, making sure you have shelters, et cetera. So that's category 1. Category 2 is awareness, including what Marcia just mentioned, as well as I thought of other ideas. If you're new to Concord, making sure that they know where the rail trail is, awareness in the broadest sense, because that agrees with many of the goals. And then number 3, connectivity, which I know we didn't discuss that letter yet, but that issue is just one example. So I took a step back and I saw those themes, and I didn't know if that also is helpful to us when we look at our charge going forward for the next umpteen years. It keeps us on track. And what, if any, implication your report that you'll provide to the town will have on our charter and our overarching goals.
Right. I think that's so. I think the thought was that we would appoint someone to write this letter for the committee to review and vote on next month. And I think it would be really good if each of you, and Deborah, I love the way you kind of took the step back. If you could put some of those thoughts down in an email and send them to whoever we decide is going to write it. And I think I somewhat volunteered for it. But not copying any other members of the committee, so it all becomes into one place, and then I can draft a letter that then the committee can review and edit and pass on. Does that sound reasonable to committee members as a path forward?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to take a second before we do a motion to ask if there are any members of the public who want to add anything to this Envision Concord and our role in it. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak up? Just raise your hand. Oh, Ellen, please go ahead and identify yourself and address. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ellen Quackenbush, 206 Prairie Street. I love the conversation here. I would say that one of the things that I'm concerned about is the safety of some of the rail trails that go through sensitive parks, such as Junction Park, and being sure that we're sensitive to the multi-use of these parks, senior citizens, kids, and we all know, what the gems of these parks are. And so I would ask that to be part of the discussion. When I think Beverly said the awareness of where the rail trail is. Right now, the GIS in Concord lists the Bruce Sherman Rail Trails going right through Junction Park, which, I don't know, in my humble opinion, was not how it was originally envisioned. So I think that it's difficult. I think that seniors won't walk there, not because they don't feel comfortable. And so I think that we, would ask you humbly to add that to your agenda, multi-use aspects of Junction Park in particular, in terms of how do we assure safety. The other thing is that my experience in monitoring people who use Junction Park, they tend to ride the bike straight through the park. And I think most concernedly, they ride right across the railroad track. And I think that if I were an MBTA person, I would think that was really terrible. People don't follow the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail path. And so I just think those are things that we should really take into account seriously and try to educate the public that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail does not go right across the railroad track. And a kid was killed when he sadly went across the railroad track. He had a headphone on. So anyway, this is not a minor issue. I think we should consider it seriously, and thank you very much.
Okay, so just to try and capture the sense, which is that going forward, we have to think about the safety and security of the multi-use spaces that the trail passes through. And I'd rather state it as a more general piece.
Please.
As a long term. Okay, great. Ellen, thank you very much. Other members of the public? Okay. All right, any other committee member comments on this? Then may I have a motion to have one of the co-chairs draft an updated letter with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee response with regard to where we are with Envision Concord items, and such letter to be reviewed by the committee and approved at our next meeting.
I'll make that motion as long as we know which co-chair is doing it. Thank you.
Okay, I will be the co-chair doing it, drafting the letter. Can I have a second for that? Okay. And do a roll call vote for that motion. Adrian?
Approved.
Approved, okay. Richard?
Aye.
Dorcas?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
And Nat Welch votes aye as well. The motion is passed unanimously. Sorry.
Matt,
Yes.
this reminds me, I've been reminded a couple times. I'm finally remembering what I've been reminding myself. Did we ever elect our fearless leaders for this committee? Did we ever do that?
I think,
This
Marcia,
term?
were you saying that come January is when we need to do that, or what's the?
Typically, the boards will vote their new chairs either in January or at the close of town meeting in June.
Okay.
And I think the only reason why there was an election of co-chairs, Nat and Richard, when you did, is because the people who were part of the committee were stepping down.
Yeah.
And they needed people to fill in immediately. So I think
I don't want to be tripping over some technicality that says that everything we've said is not valid because we didn't do something.
Okay, and also I think we should also see if the members really want us to be co-chairs. Might be another thing. I mean, let's just open this up to the committee. Any thoughts about when? Are you okay with where we are, or would you like to assess the co-chairs you have? Thoughts, comments?
When were you last appointed?
We were voted in August of 2020.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's a 3-year term, correct?
Yes. Yes. John?
Marcia, when do the terms begin? Don't they begin 1st of July?
Yes, that's your appointments. The charge has appointments starting in July. When people leave the committee out of sequence or out of that time, people are appointed to fill out that unexpired term and then would be reappointed for the next term. So that's why usually you have your boards and committees voting to have a chair in January or July.
Yeah, I was just going to observe, since I seem to be the longest serving member of this crew, that in the prior years, it seemed to have been in June or July we did this.
Correct.
Does our guest select board liaison have any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the usual practice is that the first meeting that you have after the fiscal year begins or after town meeting, that you appoint a new chair and other officers for the committee. So in this case, it seems like, you're kind of a holdover from when you were initially appointed, and that was because it was such a partial year. I don't think that, it was considered really that you wanted to rotate chairs. I mean, that it is the case that just by convention, the chair and other roles tend to rotate on an annual basis, but that isn't strictly required.
Okay.
As long as you have officers that have been appointed, I believe you're okay.
Good. Okay. Other committee members, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I personally think we're in kind of like a good groove. And I think between myself and Dorcas and like Deborah, there's a lot of like quite new members on the team that I feel like we're just getting kind of up to speed and up to the rhythm of everything. So I personally don't see any need to change anything in the near term. I think this current group, we're, getting in the groove of working efficiently together. I think your leadership has been great over the past couple of months and helping to get everybody up to speed. So yeah, no questions or concerns from my end.
Okay.
I motion that we take no action.
Second.
I second.
Okay. All right. So So I think in January, then we should probably revisit this and use that time to kind of figure out where we want to go next. That might be a good break point. And with Matt saying that we seem to be okay. I just don't want to run afoul of any, that we've done something wrong. And
I don't think that there's a whole lot other than having the committee have a chair that, you select a chair as part of the charge.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any specific term limits or anything related to the committee officers.
okay, good. Well,
There's just a convention, and the convention again wouldn't be in January in most cases. It would be typically June. But
okay,
yeah, it's the fiscal year, not the calendar year, typically.
I
Okay.
think the one additional point just to make, because we were talking through this, is I think the one thing we would want to plan for is to make sure, Nat, that if your and Richard's terms both end at the same time, that we've thought about like what the transition is before that, so we don't run into the situation where both of you are not only no longer our chairs, but also no members of the committee, and then we're all just trying to figure out how to, function and carry things forward. So I don't know if both of you have the same term date or not, but just something for us
We
to
do,
think about
yeah.
when we get closer to that date.
yeah. Well, you guys will be much better than we are anyway, so that's fine. But yes, we do have this. We co-terminate, which has actually been. So anyway, so that's
The
okay.
co-terminators, yeah.
Co-terminators.
Is there provision in the bylaws, 6 months before to sort of have a deputy so that that person can learn before, you two chairs exit left?
That's all up to the committee. You can do
Yeah,
what you
totally
want.
up to the committee.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could throw me out and keep Richard, for example,
A lot of
and
places
appoint
have a
somebody
chair
else.
and then a vice chair, and the vice chair is expected to be the chair the next time around.
So I think this is totally open for us to decide how you want to structure it going forward. So right now, let's leave it as is, and it's open. It's an open topic. Anytime anyone has an issue, please bring it up from the membership perspective.
I think we have a raised hand.
Yes.
Thank you, Ellen Quackenbush. I would really encourage the committee to please provide some open citizen forums for communications about these topics. I think a lot of people care a lot about them, as you've all said. And so I would say, please encourage citizens, publicize it, and make it known. I just think that a lot of citizens care about this and their voices need to be heard. Thank you.
And if you know anybody who does care, please tell them to join our meetings.
No, Nat, that's not the point. The point is that we need an open dialogue. I get it. Not many people want to be on the committee. It's kind of hard. You know how it is with committees. I'm just saying it would be awesome, Nat and the whole other team, if you could, and I say this, orchestrate some open citizen forums. In other words, an open forum for citizens to provide their input in terms of trails, all the things that I can give you some ideas if you want them, but I think that it's not so simple as we think. And I think citizens' voices need to be heard. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Concord Middle School Building Committee update. I received a response to a note I sent to Pat Nelson, who's the chair of the Concord Middle School Building Committee, asking her what action the committee had taken with regard to our request for connecting the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail to the new school building area. And what she sent back to me, and I'll read to you, is, "Hi, Nat and Richard, at this morning's MSBC meeting," this was sent to me today, "at this morning's MSBC meeting, we discussed the question of access to the rail trail from the school. I know interest in expanding access has been heard and discussed. However, currently, there is not a plan for changing any of the trails that access BFRT from the current middle school. We can't discuss this issue tonight because we need to put it on the agenda so that we can have an open forum to Ellen's. But we can add it to the next meeting's agenda and try and invite someone from the Middle School Building Committee to attend. Is that something that committee members would like to do for next month?"
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
I
So,
There is as Matt pointed out, there is an informal trail now that exists. And
Yeah, I was
think it'd
going
be
to
good if
offer
any
to add a,
presentation makes it clear what that is on a piece of, on a map or something.
yeah, I was going to offer to add a few more comments of color since I attended the meeting this morning and I'm the liaison to that committee as well. So they said that, you know, the trails are not going to be eliminated. They're going to be maintained in their current condition. And the second thing was that there in the northeast corner of the building, there was, you know, landscaping that might have encroached upon access from the trail. And they actually took pains to maintain, you know, accessibility from that area so that at least the current conditions could continue to be supported. The concern that was expressed, I heard, was from the police department actually about security of providing a kind of another means of access from, you know, the rail trail that, you know, as opposed to the front of the building, you know. So I don't know to what extent, you know, those, I haven't heard anything more about those concerns, but that was what was expressed by the school superintendent. So that's just some background. Again, I think for discussion, further discussion can happen, you know, at a subsequent meeting, but at least there's the background.
Matt, thanks very much for the update. Sorry, that's my bird clock. So we will add an agenda item for next month to, and one of the co-chairs will send a note to Pat and ask her if she or some other person could attend our meeting just to give us and perhaps answer some of our questions. Okay. Any other, one other item came up again this afternoon that I just wanted to let the committee know. I got contacted by a note from the chair of the select board asking us if we might consider re-looking at the Junction Park issue. And I said I would bring it up this evening just to let the committee know. And the question was, do we want to send a note to the select board saying we're here and we're happy to help in any way that you would like us to, because Junction Park, you know, the right of way of the rail trail runs through Junction Park. The issue, and I know Ellen will probably, you know, nod her head on this. This is a big issue. It's an emotional issue. There's a lot of history to it, and with the Transportation Advisory Committee kind of on a hiatus, the thought was maybe we'd be interested in helping the town. So I just wanted to bring that up, Matt. I don't know if you have any further input on it, but I wanted to let the committee think on this for a minute.
And I'm lowering my hand because, in fact, I don't have any specific input. I think this is the initiative that the chair took. Yeah.
Yep.
The just a quick background that we did had this issue brought to us last year. We addressed it. We then sent a letter to the select board asking them to address it. They then sent it to the Transportation Committee, which did somewhat address it with the sign, the painting on the pavement, etc. And then the committee got disbanded. So I mean, that's where we are. And so I don't know if the committee, I'm hearing now it's going to be reestablished, whether that just, you know, falls back into their world or not.
So I think the question might be, if we are asked or charged by the select board, would we be willing as a committee? You know, there's nothing about what's there now, what the issues are, what the potential is, but would we be willing to accept a charge from the select board if they decided they wanted to ask us to help with this? And I think that's the question before us tonight. It has nothing to do with any of the choices, any of the challenges or the issues that are there. It's just, are we interested in helping if asked?
That what charge means?
A charge means that the select board would say, Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee, we are asking you to do the following 3 things, or 10 things, whatever they would want to do. But they would charge us to take on a specific task. And that's why we're the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee, because in 2006, they charged us with a whole bunch of stuff related to the rail trail. But they gave, as part of the charge, we have no financial responsibility or no financial authority, probably both responsibility and authority. But the charge is, I think, a general term used when the select board wants to ask someone or a group to do something. And so if we're willing to entertain at least being available if the town needs us, that's I think the question at hand. And if they come and ask, then we can, then we'll serve. But I want to make sure that committee members are okay with saying we're here if you need us. Hold on, Ellen, please. I'd like to get any committee member input and thinking on this.
This is Adrian. I'm in favor of this, and it feels like we've almost come full circle, right? Because I think several meetings ago, we had wanted to take more action, and then we kind of wanted to be mindful of what our current charge was. And so we stepped back a little bit, and that's where the conversation stemmed around writing a letter on behalf of the committee. So I just think this shows that the process is working. We raised an issue, the select board is in agreement it's an issue, and it's kind of coming back to us to help advise. So I'm in support of this. I think it shows that our early efforts were noticed or recognized, but it does require more input.
Other comments from committee members?
I really think it really should be part of our charge.
Okay. Okay, good. I also think that we haven't had the same challenges that the original the original trail work for the committee was. That was a long, contentious process, but I think the committee carried itself pretty well in the last half mile. I think we've created a forum. We listen to people. We try and move things forward. We try and allow issues to be raised and discussed, and recognize what the challenges are and the limitations, et cetera. So I think all of you have shown a really good skills in helping the town wrestle with challenging issues. Any other committee member comments before I open it up?
I would just add that I think things are going to get more complicated with e-bikes, particularly as people traverse those highly congested areas of the rail trail on an e-bike. And we all know that it's not necessary even that an e-bike person will go faster. In fact, they may go slower, but who that e-bike person is, what some of their nuances are. So I think that it's going to take even more thoughtfulness as we go forward.
Yeah. Thank you for the comments. Ellen.
So yes, team, just understand that I am an avid cyclist and also gardener at Junction Park as part of West Concord Green Thumbs. Here's my concern is that I know people at Concord Park do not want to traverse Junction Park because they know people cycle, faster than they think their walkers can accommodate. So just because you don't see people traversing Junction Park, don't think that there's not a wish to do so. We did, myself and a bunch of other people did a survey of Junction Park users a couple of months ago. And what we saw, I was concerned about, I just want to offer this to you. 67% of people rode through Junction Park. And what really concerned me was over 70% rode right across the railroad track. I don't know if you guys know that there was a teenager who was killed traversing the railroad track. So I just think, who knows that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, God bless us, actually goes to the left in between Woods Hill Table and Club Car around the, junction, the platform. I just think the signage is really poor. And I think that I hate to say this, but I don't want an accident to be the reason that we have to change it. So I
Nice.
just ask your committee to please consider that. Mostly in the fact of the kids that love from Concord Children's Center love to use it, and also senior citizens, my father amongst them. So thank you.
So, thank you, Alan. And, so, I'd like a motion from the members to have one of the co-chairs write a short note to the chair of the select board saying that essentially we are open to whatever the select board would like us to do to help with the situation, something along those lines. I don't know. Do I have to be specific on the wording, don't I?
Yeah,
Okay,
Matt, I'll
Richard,
give
go
you
ahead.
some suggested wording.
Good.
Yeah, if requested by the select board, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee is willing to help find a solution to conflicts between people riding along the rail trail and people using Junction Park. I mean, without going, I mean, we could add more details what that might entail, but we don't really know what it entails. So I really like to see it as a, you know, it's all about people. And the fact of the matter is the rail trail does go through Junction Park, if you want to look at it that way. So I think there is an issue, you know, people who are using it in ways that they consider to be fairly appropriate, and other people who don't.
Could you reread? Could you reread that, Richard? What the wording would be?
If I can find it again, okay, yeah. If requested by the select board, I mean, this is like in response to that note from the chair. The Rail Trail Advisory Committee is willing to help find a solution to conflicts between people riding along the rail trail and people using Junction Park.
Comments from the committee in terms of the wording? Do we need to say anything about a charge? I
don't think that this will affect your charge. I mean, the charge is basically the scope of the committee's actions. And so this is really just a task. And I think that because, you know, it's in the vicinity of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail itself, that it seems like it would be within your purview already. So I think it doesn't really affect your charge per se.
Okay. Does the wording sound okay to the committee members?
We should have a second then.
Hold on, because Ellen, do you have something about the wording of the note?
Yeah, yes, I do. I do believe that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail being located within Junction Park is an error. And I would ask the JS committee and others to really validate that that is true. In my opinion, it is not. And so I think that that premise that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail goes through Junction Park is an error.
Well, the right of way actually does. If you look at any of the maps, the right of way goes right through Junction Park. I mean, that's an undisputable.
It's about half of Junction Park.
Yeah, it's
that
indisputable that goes there.
And
So
I think this is part of what needs to be.
Something I will dispute. If you know, I will dispute that. Thank you.
okay, no, but that's an issue. The question at hand is the wording to the select board, and the select board may say establish, you know, whatever, but we're trying to put a note together to the select board responding to the request. And Ellen, your issue is one that certainly will come up in conversation, and it's not a, you know, the issue is not dead in your head yet. So if we do get the charge, then that'll be something that will come up. So okay, can I have a motion to charge one of the co-chair, charge Richard, the co-chair, with drafting the note as he's read it from the committee to the chair of the select board?
So moved.
Seconded? Okay. Can I have a, let's see, Adrian,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Dorcas,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
and Nat Welch says aye. The motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. And Alan, thank you for your comments also. Let's see, finding my place here. I think those are the items from our agenda. Any other correspondence or public comments? I noticed we have some, oh, Richard, go
Yeah,
ahead, sorry.
This
Yeah,
is,
and- all
I
right.
just want to bring to people's attention that, which is related to Junction Park, I suppose, that the West Concord Advisory Committee is hosting a walk on Friday, October 15th at 11 a.m. from the rail trail on Main Street through West Concord over to the rail trail on Commonwealth Ave with the intent of looking at pedestrian bicyclist safety. I would hope that I'm going to plan to attend. I hope other committee members might be able to attend as well. Now, Deb, you probably didn't get this maybe, or you did.
I just saw it on, as I was multitasking and
But you
looking at
did,
the
yeah,
agenda
that's
just
good.
now.
Yeah, and I think it's it's appropriate given what we just voted on. So
I'll see if I can,
I know Marcia has information about the plan.
Well, The
Street
West Concord
improvements.
Advisory Committee is they took it upon themselves to try to identify sort of some areas that need to be addressed to help improve pedestrian and public and bicycle safety. And so they said, well, let's do a walkabout and see what other things we might identify, and then we can put those all together, maybe have a public forum, or then provide it to Public Works to see where when these things might be addressed. So that is, they're doing, it's like a site walk, and they're trying to identify some things that might be low hanging fruit that could be addressed fairly quickly, or longer term issues that need to be put on some kind of improvement plan for the future.
And there is a plan ready for some street improvements, correct?
Yes, next summer they will be undertaking sidewalk and street improvements from Church Street to where the new extension of Beharrell Street enters Commonwealth Ave. So it's a short strip, but there's going to be some pedestrian bump outs, some more formal parking areas, improved drainage, etc.
What's the date and time again?
Next Friday,
Deborah just threw it up there.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Deborah.
Friday at 11.
Deborah has
Next
powers.
Friday. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for bringing that up. Adrian, you had a comment or question?
Oh, I'm wondering if any further discussion or action has been taken around our plan to do trail counts this fall, or if we're going to defer that to the spring. I know that last time there was some discussion on like the merits of both.
One of your chairs, who happens to be talking now, has run out of time and ability to make it happen this month. So I think we're going to have to wait until spring
Yeah. I mean,
after doing it. Sorry.
yeah, and it's a good activity, but we did, the lead time isn't there. And
Yeah, I think it was pretty ambitious, I think, based on our meeting 2 weeks ago, to think we could do it
right.
like
Unless
now,
all of us
essentially.
were going to get out there for many hours to do it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed it. So, okay, good.
Well, we did the count. Weren't you there? Didn't you hear about it? Okay, all right. Other public comments or questions? Barbara, you have your hand raised.
Yes, everybody's getting excited about the bridge and the ribbon cutting for 2B. Just to, the Friends usually the Friends have always planned the other one. So this is great. We'd be happy to help in any way we can, particularly supplying things like the ice cream and the cake if you want any, or if you want bandanas. We've had them twice before, and if you'd like to have that, and we need a map.
In a map. Okay.
Right. So I guess that kind of goes back to the previous meeting. If Jill is being tasked with preparing a map, that's if you want bandanas, we're happy to get those too.
Okay.
Or other things that cost money.
Wait, no cash bar though, right?
Well, cash bar doesn't cost money, right?
That's true. Well, only if you drink. Okay.
not
Okay.
on town land and not on state land.
Not saying that. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Rasmussen. We're very happy to behave ourselves. Richard, do you have some thought about when you might want to, entertain the committee with some ideas and so on?
I think
January,
after-
February?
I think, yeah, winter.
Okay.
And
But if
I
any-
will reach out to the other Concord folks and try to identify some people in Acton. Maybe Barbara can help with that. We'll be interested as well, so.
Okay. And if any committee members have ideas for events or things, then send them via a single email to Richard so he can start to put a list together.
Yep.
So we already had the idea of school children from Acton and Concord, each kind of pushing a fake train to the top of the bridge like the Golden Spike. So that's on the list
Yeah,
already.
well, or it's the ribbon tying is my main thing right now.
Right, as opposed to ribbon cutting. I like that.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. Thanks, and thank you very much for the help from the Friends. You guys have always been really supportive of our work, so we really appreciate that. Any other comments?
I think we're good.
Okay. Our next meeting will be November. I gotta hear some more. November what?
November 7th.
November 7th. And one of us will not be here, but I will be in Tahiti. So everybody else show up.
I thought, doesn't Zoom work in Tahiti? I mean,
Apparently not. Okay.
you could have some palm trees in the background or something.
I will not swear to it, but I've heard the internet's really bad down there.
So is everybody available for that next meeting in November? To make
November
sure we have a
7th.
Quorum.
Yes. We need 5, which means all of you.
Oh, no,
Just to
it's
check, I
November
think
4th,
it's
actually.
November
November
4th, right?
Yeah,
November
November
4th,
7th
okay.
is a Sunday, yeah.
Right.
That's November 4th.
Everyone, can everyone make it?
Prior to that meeting also, Matt and I are gonna be reaching out to people who fill out green cards, and hopefully we'll have some new committee member ideas by that meeting.
And thanks to members who've talked to other folks. Yeah, suggested it. Okay. So can I get a motion to close this meeting?
I think
So
you can just adjourn.
Well, we like
can
to
declare
motion and,
You don't need
sorry,
a motion. You can
I'm
just say
sorry,
it.
we don't want to get in trouble.
No,
with,
it's,
with
I
anybody.
talked to the town clerk.
Motion to adjourn.
That's all we need, okay. So would someone going to move to adjourn?
I just
To
did.
adjourn.
Oh, okay, thank you. Seconded?
Second.
Okay, so this meeting of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee is finished as of 8:23.